What's up everybody, it's RobinGaming here. So something that I've really been thinking about lately, and something that actually also pretty much bothers me, is why are developers not using the touchpad on the DualShock 4 controller? I mean, when Sony first announced the PlayStation 4, showed us the first glimpse at the DualShock 4, I saw the touchpad and I thought this might end up to be very gimmicky. This might end up to be something that developers will simply not use, will not work. So the question was really, how good is this thing going to be? What's it actually going to add in terms of features? I think when the PlayStation 4 came out and we all got our hands on it, Sony proved that this touchpad works very well. It's super responsive. We saw that with games like Killzone. They added, the feature that you can actually press it, click it in, which basically, makes for more features. But so far, really the only game that I've seen handle the touchpad quite well is Killzone, the one I just mentioned before, where you could control your owl by simply swiping from the center to left or right, up or down or whatever. And it would choose a certain action. Now, we saw in games like Infamous that it was kind of used in a pretty gimmicky way, just for certain things that you could do in a world. You had to bring it up, but all in all, they could have just as well done that, by just using regular buttons. The thing is, though, and I've really been thinking about this, a game like Dragon Age, I mean, Dragon Age Inquisition is coming up this year, is a big RPG. I'm very much looking forward to it. Might just as well be my most anticipated game of the year at this moment. And a problem that pretty much every console player used to have with the previous two Dragon Age games on the PlayStation 3 and on the Xbox 360 was that you were very limited in what you could do. You had on one hand the PC version where there was an infinite amount of buttons that you could use to bind all your spells to, and then at the same time there was the controller. What BioWare at the time did to fix this issue was they kind of gave us pretty much six kind of like buttons that we could quickly bind our spells to, and those were triangle, square and circle. And then if you would hold R2, that would basically mean that there were 3 more slots available for you to bind certain spells to. If you wanted to use a spell or an action or anything like that, that you didn't, that you hadn't binded to one of those buttons, you had to bring up this whole action wheel. Took a long time to get to that certain action that you wanted to do, and yeah, basically just costed a lot of time for you to do something that you normally wouldn't do in the game, which is quite a shame, because of course on the PC you have the whole row of buttons that you could all use to bind those spells to. I think, this touchpad that you have now is such a great way to, kind of like fix this issue, because you, I mean, not literally, but it seems like you have an infinite amount of possibilities. You could swipe from left to right, from, the center to left, up, down, middle, what I said that they did with Killzone. At the same time, you might as well just press it at a certain part of the touchpad where it would mean a different action. Or even if you think of it in a way that Dragon Age did it, what if you would hold R2 and then swipe to a different location or something like that? I mean, the game would be able to see that, right? The PlayStation 4 is able to recognize you doing that, of course. So pretty much if you would just think of the way where you would have 4 spells that you could bind to the touchpad, once again, up, down, left, right, maybe even hold a certain button when doing that, would mean 8 more actions to execute on top of the 6 that you already would have, which results in 14, possible actions, whereas with previous Dragon Age games you would have 6 or something like that. And that's really, I'm really thinking about that, because all the games we've seen released so far, I have yet to see a game really make use of the touchpad in a great way. Like I said, Killzone did it remotely well, but then again, it's not like they couldn't have binded those to maybe the arrow keys or something like that, because I believe that on the arrow keys they basically had a few features that you barely would use at all. And yeah, I mean, that's really what I find a pretty big shame. Of course, the Xbox One doesn't have a touchpad, and that means that for all these, multi-platform games, it's an extra thing to ask for a developer to, support the touchpad for their games. And then it's really like, the question is really, is it gonna be hard for them to really, or do they have to put a lot of time into making sure that the touchpad is being supported? I honestly don't think that's really a big issue at all, and I think you would heavily increase the experience, increase the fluid controls and stuff of your game by using the touchpad. So yeah, all I can say is that especially for games like RPGs where you have a lot of options and things you can do, I'd say why do you not, to the developers, why do you not use the touchpad? I think it's great, and it's a great move by Sony to have put that, on the DualShock 4. But if nobody's using it, then of course it's going to end up being a gimmick, something that they'll scrap for the next PlayStation, whatever that may be. And yeah, I definitely think that's a shame. I think it has a lot of potential. But of course, I would like to know your thoughts on the DualShock 4 touchpad. Do you think this touchpad can really help games with, you know, more options to control your game or anything like that? Do you think it can be a great feature at least? And do you agree with me that, you know, it just hasn't been used a lot by now? If you have actually played a game where it was greatly supported, let me know that, because I have yet to find one except for Killzone. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you a lot for watching and hope to see you again next time.
Now it's 2 long years waiting around.